This man cannot remain in power.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to my new video. I'm here to talk about the puppet state of Lithuania, the little state of 3 million people, where you have Chinese cities which have more population than Lithuania itself. And this little troublemaker of a country, and they really are a troublemaker, have recently done something really major. If it wasn't enough to really piss the Chinese off, which I'm going to be talking about in a bit later on, they have really pissed off the Russians. And I'm going to talk about why Russia could take action against Lithuania and could in fact invade it, and why it could be even legal and NATO won't be able to do anything, and I'll explain that in the video. So what have they done? You can see Lithuania is on the verge of dragging NATO into the Ukrainian war. Moscow warns it will take actions after alliance member blocks trains carrying goods to Russia's Kaliningrad territory. So what have they done exactly? Why is it important? You can see the region itself. If I show you the map, you can see the region there. That's Kaliningrad, and that's part of Russia. And you can see there's no road links to going into Kaliningrad from Russia itself. So you got Latvia there, you got Lithuania, you got Belarus on the south. So why is Kaliningrad important? It's a region in the Russia's westernmost enclave in Europe, sandwiched between Poland, Lithuania, along with the Baltic coast. Its position in the heart of Europe enables it to easily deliver Russian goods to any part of the bloc as an enclave or territory which belongs to Russia, but geographically separated from its mainland. It should be granted full access to and from the mainland Russia under international law. Therefore, some analysts suggest that Lithuania's move to block Russia's access to its own territory could, to some extent, be considered casus belli, a cause for declaration of war. So why did Lithuania block the transit? Because they are stupid and they are puppets. They've done some very strong maneuvers against China as well, by recognizing Taiwan, for example. They have done other things which I'm going to go into a bit later on, but they seem to be the little troublemaker in the schoolyard, where if you're a big bully, rather than you going around beating people up, you send your little helper, to collect all the money and to go around beating other people up. And if your little helper comes back with a black eye, then you get involved. Otherwise, your little helper will be going around doing your dirty work. And that's what Lithuania is doing. It's doing America's dirty work, or doing the West's dirty work. And it's pissing off China, it's pissing off Russia. And pretty soon, if it carries on doing what it is, it's not going to exist anymore. And I'll explain why. So why is this a dangerous move by Lithuania, and what can Russia do? Well, I'll tell you what Russia can do. You can see, look at this article. Russia mulls Lithuania's illegal independence from Moscow. So back in the day, Lithuania used to be part of the Soviet Union, and they've obviously become independent from the Soviet Union, and they've become Lithuania. However, the Russians believe that Lithuania have not become totally independent from them. You can see here, a Russian lawmaker called for Lithuania's independence to be repealed, submitting a draft bill claiming that the Baltic Republic illegally left the Soviet Union more than 3 decades ago. So the Russians do not recognize Lithuania as a country. They do not recognize it becoming independent. And that could be a big issue, because if they don't recognize Lithuania as an independent country, then there could be border issues, and it could be even legal for Russia to go into Lithuania claiming it's its own territory. So let me continue. He says that this decree was illegal. It was in violation of the USSR Constitution. He said under section 67.1 of the Russian Constitution, the Russian Federation is the legal successor of the USSR in its territory. Therefore, in its view, this meant that recognition of Lithuania's independence taken by USSR was subject to cancellation. So Lithuania is in big trouble because if Russia go ahead with this bill and they do not recognize Lithuania, then they could easily go into Lithuania and create a land border. So in other words, Russia could easily turn around and say, for Lithuania to block trains coming from Russia into Kaliningrad is against international law, it's against their own security as well, and they could easily take this piece of land going from Belarus all the way to Kaliningrad, and they could easily take this piece of land from Lithuania and use that as a land bridge going from Kaliningrad into Belarus, where there'll be trains going into Russia. So they could easily do that. I don't think they will take all of Lithuania because that's not within Russia's remit, but they could take that under international law. And because Russia do not recognize Lithuania, and obviously if you don't recognize a country, there's obviously going to be border issues, and Russia can easily take that piece of land connecting Kaliningrad into Belarus and claim it as their own land because they don't recognize Lithuania and they don't recognize any borders because of that. So they can do that if they wanted. So what can Lithuania do if Russia makes such moves? Number one, Lithuania can't do much because they've only got 3 million population. Like I said, Chinese cities got more population than Lithuania as a country. They don't have much of a military, but what they do have is membership to NATO. And as you know, any attack on NATO's country means attack on everyone. So I also found this article as well. Russia aims to boot former Soviet nations from NATO by relinquishing sovereign recognition. So again, you can see here, the NATO Charter contains Clause 6. According to Clause 6, which is disputed territories cannot be included in the alliance. As soon as the territories of the Baltic countries are recognized as disputed, this will become the basis for the exclusion of the Baltic countries from NATO, which I don't think any of the Baltic countries would be kicked out of NATO. First of all, I don't think it's within NATO's interest. NATO would never agree to such things. But I don't think that NATO would get involved if there's a dispute over border issues between Lithuania and Russia. And do you really think NATO's going to get involved and help Lithuania? I mean, look at Ukraine. Ukraine is a lot more useful to the West, to America, to NATO than Lithuania is. Lithuania is a very small country with 3 million people, and its geographical location, it really doesn't matter to NATO. It really doesn't matter to the West. And if Russia decided to take that piece of land away from Lithuania, I don't think NATO would intervene. So a lot of people think that the NATO Charter is set to stone. If one country gets attacked, all the NATO countries will join in and start attacking Russia, for example. That is not true at all. Definitely not true. What the Charter tells you is all of the NATO countries actually come together in a meeting and they discuss whether to go to war or not, or what are the next steps. If there is a peaceful solution, they will go for a peaceful solution. You know, this article is not set in stone whether they will go to war straight away. And look, if NATO wanted to go to war against Russia, they would have done it, you know, within the Ukraine special operations. They haven't. You know, Ukraine is much more useful to Europe. Ukraine is much more useful to America. Taiwan is much more useful to America. You know, Lithuania is not an important country to the West. Lithuania likes to think they are important, but they're not. Absolutely not. And I guarantee you, if Russia decided to take that piece of land tomorrow, saying that, you know, what Lithuania is doing is against international law, so we're taking the law in our own hands, we don't recognize Lithuania, so we dispute these borders are ours, so we will take it. And you can see from the NATO charter that, they can't have a country with border issues. So there's a lot of red tape that people don't really realize. And there is no way that NATO would go into war with Russia. If they wanted to go into war, they would have done it by now. NATO loves to attack countries that can't fight back. Countries like Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, Yugoslavia. These are easy countries to bomb and destroy because they don't have the sophistication in terms of weaponry, missiles, nuclear weapons, fifth generation fighter jet, S-400s, S-500s, submarines. These countries that NATO have been bombing, they've been easy countries. It's different with Russia. And there is no way they will go to war, destroy all of NATO because of Lithuania's actions. And Lithuania has taken this action unilaterally. And do you really think it's fair for all of the other NATOs to suddenly get involved in a war just because something Lithuania done? Do you really think NATO would be in a position to destroy itself and cause nuclear war because Lithuania decided to block all Russian access to Kaliningrad? I don't think so. Another reason NATO is not going to get involved is if NATO does get involved in a war with Russia, who do you think will help Russia? China will get involved. I guarantee you China will get involved. There is no way China is going to let Russia fall. No way, absolutely no way. China will do whatever it can to help Russia with NATO. And I guarantee if NATO gets involved, China will get involved and help Russia whichever way it can. And why? Because NATO has they've threatened China. Stoltenberg said many times China is their big enemy. China is their number one enemy. NATO's going to be spreading to the east. They're already spreading their wings to some countries like Japan and South Korea. As you can see, South Korea joins NATO's cyber defense, and this was signed just like over a month ago. And you can see NATO is starting to spread its wings to the east. And what do you think will happen if Russia gets taken down by NATO and America? China will be next. China knows that. So there is no way they will allow Russia to fall, and they will help Russia whatever it needs. And there is also an added impotence as well for China to help Russia. China does not like Lithuania. Lithuania has been taking steps to really anger the Chinese. So you can see from this headline here, Little Lithuania pokes China with Taiwan support. So Lithuania has agreed to have a Taiwanese office, and they have completely denounced the One China policy. And obviously the little poodle or little puppy that the West is using to poke China with is doing everything that its master wants it to do. And China is not very happy about it. So China has placed a lot of restrictions on Lithuania. It stopped buying Lithuanian goods, got rid of all of the Lithuanian embassies from China. So the diplomatic relations between China and Lithuania are at the lowest level. Lithuania have also done other things as well to anger China. You can see Lithuanian parliament condemns Uyghur genocide. Again, they are going along with the Western narrative. And Lithuania's decision to quit China's 17+1. So they're taking a lot of steps to anger the Chinese. So the Chinese are not going to mind at all to help Russia, swat this little fly that you call Lithuania. And I just think Lithuania, small countries do not survive much in this world. And imagine a small country upsetting America, for example. Can you really imagine what will happen to that country? America will sanction it to death. If a small country dares to go up against America, America's might, America's empire, America will sanction that country to death. If not, they will invade it, they will bomb it, they will do whatever they want, they will do a coup. They will destroy that country. And this little Lithuania, they don't really seem to think that diplomacy is long term. There is no such thing as short term diplomacy. They might be doing this in the short term to make America happy, make the West happy, but look at what's happening around the world. The dollar is not going to be that powerful very soon. America's economy is going down. European economy is going down. Europeans not going to have gas. There's a lot of issues happening in the West. And Russia is an up-and-coming superpower. And you can see China is also, it's going to be the number one superpower very soon. It's going to overtake America's GDP. So you can see Russia, and China are not two countries to mess around with. And Lithuania is signing its own death warrant by messing around with China and messing around with Russia at the same time. I just don't know what they're thinking. These guys must have no clue whatsoever. I don't know what goes through their heads, what goes through their brains. Seriously. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say, guys. Let me know what you guys think. Do you really think Lithuania will survive as a country? Do you think that Russia will be bold enough to take that little piece of land connected Kaliningrad to Belarus? Or do you think NATO will intervene? Do you think this will escalate the conflict in Ukraine? What do you guys think? Let me know. I'll look forward to reading your comments, and I'll see you in the next video. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. You can join my Patreon, or you can buy me a coffee as well. Thanks very much, and I'll see you soon.